a pair of guests in the room. Let me introduce, first of all, the Secretary of the Caddo Parish Democrat Party, Mr. R.J. Johnson, and from the Caddo Parish Republican Party, the Chairman, Louis R. Avallone. Gentlemen, welcome to KEEL. How you guys doing this morning?
Good morning.
Doing
well.
Great.
Let me get the soccer boppers out, if y'all don't mind.
No.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
No. We want to go. We want hand on hand.
Oh, hand on hand. Okay.
Let me start with this, because this is something Erin and I have discussed over the last 3 or 4 days, and this is pertinent to the Shreveport mayor's race. And it is our sense that this is one of the most, as we, in the home stretch, headed to the finish line today, that there, in our minds, are so many people who are still in these last moments undecided. RJ, you get that sense?
I agree with that. I think that's something that I've heard from a lot of people. I think people are more interested in this mayor's race because you have a lot of candidates who have some good ideas, regardless of party, and they are really trying to get their voters out. So, I can see why those people are undecided, and I think it's important that we definitely get out to vote, regardless of who you're voting for. That's extremely important. But yeah, absolutely would agree.
How's
with
about
that.
you, Louis? You getting the sense that like people are going in, like a friend of Erin said to her a couple of days ago, and I'll decide when I get in there.
Another yesterday. Why are the schools closed tomorrow?
Yeah. No, I think that people are very undecided. I think the undecided vote is very high this time around. But I also think the interest in this election is also among the highest that it's been. In fact, early voting is up 50% this year than it was in 2014.
Do you think there will be, as Erin and I are getting the sense from our own little non-professional polling, i.e. at the bar, do you get the sense there's going to be a lot of, or at least more than usual, crossover party voting this time?
I think so. I think that a lot of folks, and I hear this all the time, I vote for the person. I don't vote for the party. And I think that's important to vote for who is most qualified. I think political parties help organize a massive amount of information and simplify who it is, whose philosophy you want to support. And so, yeah, I do think there's going to be a tremendous amount of crossover, but I think people mainly are interested in a change.
What do you think, RJ? A lot of crossover voting?
Yeah, definitely a lot of crossover voting. And I think when you talk about crossover, you talk about candidates, candidates have been reaching out to other folks to ensure that there is a crossover vote. It's going to be interesting to see if we have 2 Democrats in the runoff or a Republican and a Democrat in the runoff, just because of the candidates that you have and what they're trying to do to outreach to people.
RJ, let me start with you. What's been the Democratic Party's position with regard to which candidate's the best for our city? And the same for you, Louis. How involved has the party been? There's been no endorsement, correct?
There has been no endorsement. The Caddo Democratic Executive Committee has not made an endorsement in the mayor's race. We have members of the 17-member committee who are working with different campaigns. We're all across the board as far as who we support in the mayoral election. So I don't think we could have made an endorsement that would have been, we support the Democratic candidates, obviously, but it would have been really interesting to see the committee members try to vote on an endorsement in this mayoral race just because we're across the board.
What about the Republicans, Louis?
Well, I think that we have made no endorsement. We've got 2 very good candidates that could lead this city. And I think people, to some degree, are fed up with these backroom deals where, a select few select a single candidate, and that's going to be the candidate. And so we just don't want any part of that. We feel like the voters are the best judge of who should lead this city.
But on the Democrat side, you do have the incumbent mayor.
That's right.
Is your lack of endorsement, did that go against the grain? Did that go against tradition? And how did the Tyler administration, specifically the mayor herself, react to, no, I'm sorry, Ms. Tyler, we're stepping back for till the runoff?
I don't think we didn't have a reaction. I don't think it was something that people looked for. It was not overly sought for an endorsement from a party's perspective. I think right now it has nothing to do with the incumbency factor. I think what the issue is, and it has nothing to do with party. I think the old guard versus the new guard is where there is some split there, as we have two millennial candidates at age 32 on the Democratic side, and we have Mayor Tyler, who's a little bit older than that, and so we're experiencing. We're having a lot of folks talk about the issue of age versus new leadership versus old leadership, new guard versus old guard, and who's the best to move the city forward.
While you're out in the community, RJ, and Lewis, you too, what are people saying? I've heard a lot about momentum in the race and who's catching who and who's trailing and who's out of the picture. What are you hearing from the circles you run in?
Everybody's all over the place. Nobody really knows for sure what's going on and who's going to make this runoff. We'll see that after 8 o'clock tonight. But I think it's important to realize that, it's not going to matter unless you go get out and vote. You can support your candidate. We've seen it on social media. We've heard the radio ads. We've seen the TV commercials. Candidates are really trying harder than they did 4 years ago in running for that office. And so I'm hearing a lot of my friends, a lot of millennials talk about either voting for Stephen Jackson or Adrian Perkins. I've heard people talk about voting for Mayor Tyler, but like I said, it's an issue of age more than party.
Lewis?
Well, I think what's happening is, for better or for worse, Shreveport is a very small town. And there are so many people that are worried about alienating this group or that group. And they're not willing to tell you oftentimes publicly. Privately they will, but publicly they're more reluctant to say, no, I'm definitely going this direction, because it may not be the conventional wisdom. And others may be surprised that they're voting in that particular direction. But again, Shreveport's a very small town, and I think we'll know, obviously, tonight, because the folks know where they're going to go once they get into that ballot box.
Can y'all